Sweet. It worked out of the gate this time. That is exciting stuff. For those of you who were with me a couple years, or not a couple years, a couple weeks ago, you remember that I was not so successful right out of the gate, and I'm really stoked that that worked. So I guess this middle-aged dog can learn new tricks still. That's exciting. I guess first of all, an audio test. Make sure you guys can hear me. Make sure you guys can see me. If you see me looking over here, it's because I have myself up on the screen, so I'm pretty sure you can at least see me. But let's see if I can. You're looking over here, it's because I can hear myself, so I assume you can too. Hey, George, great to see you here. Appreciate your comments earlier on my Facebook post. Let's give a minute or two for everybody to hop on. Hugo, welcome to the training. Looks like we have a number of people that are just kind of flooding on last minute here, so we'll give just another minute or two. You know, everybody has to be fashionably a few minutes late, right? Like it's a Hollywood premiere or something. Got to survey my background here. These hangouts, you got to be careful what you got in the background. Make sure don't have anything incriminating. Looks like about the worst thing I have in my background is my Splenda stash, my artificial sweetener. So I guess I'm busted for that, but I do try to balance it out with a lot of healthy ionized water. So all right, looks like just about everybody. Well, I'm sure there'll be more stragglers. Jeff and Diane, welcome. You guys send some shout outs, post your names, let me know who's here. I like to know who I'm talking to. There's this crazy delay over there too. I wave here and I see it now. So what's that, about 8-second delay? So it's a little weird, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna dive in here. Sebastian from Columbus, Ohio, welcome. There we go. Steve in Alaska, what's up, Steve? Jeff from Oregon, we got a good number of Jeffs here. Susan, welcome. Ismay, welcome. Thanks, Cameron. Yeah, it's nice to be on time. So speaking of on time, let's dive right in. By the way, Cameron, congratulations recently on your first trifecta sale. That's exciting stuff. First of many. Okay, so if you were on the training with me a couple weeks ago, you'll remember that we talked about how I'm sort of tracking the follow-up sequence with people that come into the PowerLifePro business through the PowerLifePro capture page or the PowerLifePro funnel. So what I want to talk about today is sort of two parts. I want to really complete that discussion and talk about once somebody does come through and actually decides to get started. I talked about that I have an onboarding process that myself and my team assistant do with new people to really set people up for maximum success in the business. I can tell you from personal experience that, and I've seen this played out now probably 3 different times in my career in home business. It is so much better to have a small team of committed, passionate, well-trained people that feel like they are a part of something than it is to have a lot of people who you have brought into a business or you have sold a product to who feel disconnected and unsupported. Duplication is what they call the idea that when you obviously when you get someone involved, you want to empower them, not enable them or sort of baby them, but at least empower them with the tools and the information to be able to do what it is that you've done, which is successfully attract someone to the business. And a lot, obviously, I mean, anybody that's in home-based business or network marketing is familiar with the concept of duplication, and much gets made of it. But I never really understood what duplication truly was. Edie from New Mexico, welcome, by the way. Didn't mean to leave you out of the introductions. Jim from Pennsylvania, same to you, sir. I didn't really understand duplication like I thought I did, actually, until I owned a more traditional business. And here's what I mean. Actually, I was having a conversation with someone today about this who owns, they actually own, they're involved in a direct sales business where they have a couple of people that work with them sort of as assistants and phone coaches and stuff. And we got into the same discussion. I didn't really, I used to be in a business where it paid, basically the commissions where you made most of the money off of selling the product to one level, and then there was a little bit of money that went up one level above that. So my primary incentive was to sell stuff. My secondary incentive was that if I could find a few people, it was worth investing in them to get them to a place where they could sell stuff, because then that was like easy money for me. I didn't have to do a lot. Paul in Fort Lauderdale, welcome to the training. And that was really cool. Obviously the commissions were great when I sold something. I had a few people on that team that were very, very good, and I made some really nice money when they sold stuff. But that's really as far as it went. It was, and I think I'm a pretty at least sort of middle of the road guy for the home-based business industry. I'm very business minded. I'm business oriented. I kind of go where the money is, but I'll only go so far to get the money. I do have some scruples and sense of, decency, I like to think. But it's really hard to be a better person in a home-based business than the compensation model incentivizes you to be. It's kind of like choosing to pay more taxes because you really want to, fund Social Security or fund, federal grants or whatever. Yeah, there's certain things the government does that I want them to do, or at least I want them to fulfill on. Paying down our national debt would be nice too. But that doesn't mean I'm going to voluntarily choose to pay more taxes than what I'm legally obligated to do. Same thing in a home-based business. I want everyone to succeed, and I want everyone to benefit and, quote, duplicate. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go super beyond what the compensation plan incentivizes me to do. And that is what it is. And I don't think anybody reasonably would expect that from anyone else. And that's what I love here. So knowing that we have such a powerful incentive that I can get paid the same amount off of a sale that happens 4 levels below me as happens for myself, and that amount, unlike a lot of companies that have deeper compensation plans, that amount of money doesn't have to be very small. In fact, it can be a couple $1,000s even, and I've actually experienced this already after less than 3 months. I've experienced what it's like to make a couple $1,000s on a sale that was made by someone that I didn't even bring into the business. And it's amazing. But, now that we have that incentive, we want to make sure that we do the things that will actually create that result. And I think that as much as gets made of duplication, we often don't realize how much it is on us. to train and to support and to create. A lot of it is creating culture. That's I think what a lot of us, when people talk about leadership in home-based business, you have to think of yourself certainly in humble terms, but yet also there's a certain boldness in saying, I'm going to create a culture for my team, and I'm going to lead by example, and I'm going to empower people with the tools to be successful. And that's something that I see a lot of people stop short of. They say, oh, well, I'm going to direct somebody to the information, or I'm going to tell somebody what my sponsor told me. And that's fine. That maybe the only information you have is the information that you were given by your sponsor. But there is a qualitative component to conveying yourself and your energy as a leader of culture, where you say, look, align with me, and we're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. And with an unwavering certainty and an unwavering confidence, to where if they choose not to align with you, that is their choice. But you are on a path, and they can walk it with you, and well, they should. And then you have to follow that up by actually investing the time. This is the conversation I was having earlier with someone today. Is he and myself have both learned through owning traditional businesses that people need to be invested in before they feel comfortable sticking with something. And it's actually, for me and for him, it was in the form of employee attrition. I used to think that when you hire somebody, you could tell them what needs to be done and assume that they would figure it out. And I've owned my current business separate from PowerLifePro. I own a company, and I've owned this company for almost 3 years now. And it took me the better part of 2 years to figure out that if I would invest in training and onboarding, if I would actually record what it is that we do here, if I would actually create scripts for what it is that we do here, if I would actually give, and this is key, give people time before they're under the gun to produce a result. And, I used to train people for a day and then put them into that, say, go, okay, now do your job. Now our protocol here is, depending on the position, we train them for anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. We train them to the point where they're begging us to get to work. They're saying, look, I got it. You've told me the same thing 18 times in 12 different languages. I promise I know what to do. Just let me do the job. And we say, no, rehearse it again, role play it again, practice it again. Because two things. One, as soon as they get in a live environment, and this is, to you and to people you bring into the business, as soon as you get into a live environment, you're going to freeze and you're going to forget everything you thought you had mastered. It's just what's going to happen. I know this from being a musician. The first time I ever went up to play on stage, I had practiced the thing 1,000 times, and suddenly it was like I'd never touched a piano before. The same thing happens when you get on the phones. You're just going to forget. It's a completely different part of your brain. It's like asking another person to know what you know. It's literally that different of a part of your brain the first time it happens in a live environment. And so that's why we rehearse and we rehearse and we rehearse. But the other thing is, when you've invested 2 weeks in learning how to do a job, then the first time you hit adversity with that job, the first time you do get in a live environment and you freeze all of a sudden, and you feel dumb or you feel inadequate or you feel scared or insecure, you're less likely to throw your hands up and say, I can't do this, because you've invested those 2 weeks. And typically, there's a saying that what they say is your heart follows your money. I would say your heart follows your investments. Whether you've invested time in something, whether you've invested money in something, whether you've invested putting your reputation on the line for something, the more you commit to something, the more your heart is engaged with that thing. And obviously, when they talk about what does it take to overcome adversity, we mean heart, right? The word courage, courage, French, comes from the color red, comes from blood, comes from the beating heart. It takes heart to overcome adversity, and you're going to have more heart invested in a thing if you spent more time preparing for the thing. And you, as the sponsor, and I saw a pretty good post about this in the PLP group, you have a responsibility to nurture that for people, and to create that culture where, as much as rapid results are a possibility, ready, fire, aim is, sorry, that beeping. Let me see if I can mute that beeping real quick. That's super annoying. There we go. Getting in over your head, getting overwhelmed is something, you can ask people to do it. You can put people on the phones in a live environment. You can give someone a call and say, hey, go hit the ground running, and that's fine, but they have to have a soft pad to fall back on. And when you bring somebody into this business, that soft pad is you. And so what I've tried to do is construct a structured onboarding process so that you can be that soft cushion. You can be that warm, fuzzy support system to a number of people without being overwhelmed by the breadth of responsibility or the number of, variables that you are suddenly sort of in command of or in charge of on their behalf, until ultimately you can take the training wheels off. And so that's what I want to do here to see through the last training I did, is go over exactly, now that I've probably said more than I needed to say about why it's so important to do a thorough job of onboarding. And let me say real quick, by the way, related to that, since I started training my employees for 2 weeks, as opposed to shoving them on the phones or into whatever the role is after one day, I've cut down on the number of new people that I have to hire by probably 80%. I used to have to hire 4 or 5 times as many people in order, on an ongoing basis. I've reduced attrition so much because of that deal where people feel invested in something and they feel supported. But so that said, let me give you sort of my structured process for how to arm someone to be successful in this business once you bring them on board. Then we're going to talk about what I'm pretty sure is the other part of what some of you guys may be looking for here, which is, okay, how do I get people on board in the first place? How do I draw people to the funnel? All this what to do once they're in the funnel is great, but also how do I get them to the funnel in the first place? So we're going to talk about that too. But first, my onboarding process, basically, here are the things that I believe you need to make sure people are covered, or that, the way I do it, honestly, is I really take responsibility for a lot of the mechanical parts of people's businesses. And I don't know that you necessarily need to do it to the degree that I'm doing it, because I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive. But I know what I'm about to tell you. I know this information for every single person within my 8 levels of my team. And the reason is because this compensation plan is so powerful that understanding it and leveraging it and being strategic with it can be the difference between making, $25,000 and making $125,000. It's literally, there's that much leverage built into this, but it also requires a little bit of understanding and a little bit of, strategery. However, and I'll be the first to say, Enagic doesn't really give you all the tools to be that strategic about how you leverage the compensation plan and sort of position, because they've never really been built. From my understanding, they've never had people as aggressive as we are going out and really building these businesses as quickly as we're building them. And so I've had to kind of figure out what information do I need to track for people to be able to build this business in the most strategic way. And here's what it is. And I'm actually going to type it in to the comments on the training, on the Hangout, and I'll speak it as I type it. So first, I believe that you need to know the Enagic distributor ID of every person you bring into the business, because it is very difficult to provide support to them if you cannot get on the phone with Enagic and help them with their issues. You also, as a part of that, you need to know the name that their Enagic order was placed under. Some people place it under a business name. Some people place it under a personal name. If they place it under a business name, you need to make sure that they submit the proper paperwork to do that. They have to submit either articles of incorporation, articles of organization, as well as a legitimate business license from their state of incorporation. And you need to know the name that the business was, or the product was ordered under. You also need to know the office, that the regional office that they are coded to. And you can access, if you just go on Google, you can type in, I'm going to do it right now, Enagic regional office map. I forget exactly what I Googled to find it, but yeah, there it is. And it'll bring up a link on Enagic that says Kangen Water office locations. And there's a map because, you know, for myself, for example, I'm based in Utah, so I'm coded to the California office. But if I'm trying to work with someone, let's say Cameron, who's in Oklahoma, and I need to assist him, he's coded to the Dallas, Texas office. If I spend 30 minutes on hold with the California office and finally get through to someone, they're just going to tell me I need to call Dallas. So obviously you can save yourself the time, unless it involves commissions, in which case all commissions are processed out of the California office, but it's a different department. So knowing this information about Enagic is very helpful, obviously. Okay, and then I want to know the sponsor leg. So if I'm personally sponsoring someone, obviously I like to keep track of, is this my 2A lane? Is this my 3A lane? You really got to understand the Enagic compensation plan, and know that your first 3 sales need to be personal sales. They're going to be opening a 1A lane, opening another 1A lane, and then your third personal sale can open a 2A lane. And at that point, your organization can grow underneath you, and you start to receive volume credit for all of the deals produced under all your legs. So for any given deal, you need to know what lane is that relative to the sponsor, because once you get to 2A, you might not necessarily put every deal you sign up underneath yourself. You need to know what product someone purchased. You need to know someone's cell phone number. You need to know the email address that someone used when they subscribed to Enagic. And a lot of this information, you're going to want to make sure that they have properly loaded into their PLP back office, so that when people come in through their PLP system and they want to reach out to their sponsor, they're able to properly do that. And also when they place orders, that they are properly attributing the orders to the correct sponsor. And again, you got to think that when somebody comes in, it's a lot easier to, you know, as they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. In this case, an ounce of getting things set up properly is worth a pound of trying to fix mistakes after the fact and find, you know, orders that are orphaned in an Enagic system. So you can, and when you do this stuff, and when you provide this level of touch to your member, you just gotta understand the level of comfort and the leadership of culture, like I said, that you're creating for this person, and the demonstration of mastery of the system that you're giving to this person, to where they feel, you know, because they're going to hit bumps in the road. And this way, when they do, they're going to feel like you're going to have their back. And there's a solid bottom that they're building on. And you know, because you can't anticipate every issue, you can just anticipate that there are going to be issues. And by going through all this stuff with them up front, you, like I say, you know, they feel confident when they do find those issues that you'll get them through it. The next thing you want to make sure you have in your records is their PLP email address. A lot of people use a different email address when they come through the PLP system. I know that I have, you know, different email addresses I use when I sign up for stuff and I'm not quite sure what it is. And then maybe once I get all the way into something, now I want to give my real email or my personal email or my business email. But you just want to make sure that you have, because a lot of people will still be using one email address when they make their Enagic order, and then they might update their email in the PLP system, but they might forget or not choose to go update it in the Enagic system. And if you're trying, in certain things you're trying to do, like genealogy requests, if you're trying to contact Enagic and you're using the email address from the PLP system and it's different from the Enagic system, Enagic will not trust you or believe that you're the right person or that you have permission to call on that account. So you got to keep that distinction separate. It's also very useful if you do get involved, and we'll probably do another training on some more advanced advertising strategies, but if you choose to do any type of cooperative advertising where maybe you and some other members are sharing in advertising, you got to make sure you have the right email addresses so that you can route the leads. And I'm excited to do another training on that. But also, you want to really understand the way the PLP links work. And there's, in every PLP link, when you go into your back office, there's that ID equals, and then your PLP username. And it's a little bit tricky. I want to encourage you to get clear on this. In some places in PLP, it refers to your username, and it means your email address that you're using to sign into PLP. But I believe there's another spot where it says username, and it's actually referring to the little single word code that goes into your links as the ID. And they might have changed the language to clear up the confusion, but right now when I'm talking about your PLP ID, I'm not talking about the email address that you use to log in. I'm talking about the word or sequence of characters that they had you create when you were first coming through the process as a prospect. And see, a lot of people, or no, actually, I think it was after you were a prospect. It was when you activated your back office by putting in your Enagic order ID or distributor ID. And a lot of people don't realize the implications of that when they're doing it. And when they're trying to create their links, they don't, it's easy for you to test their links if you know what their ID is. And then I personally, and I have not found one person who objects to this, again, because I create the culture of confidence and support and trust, the PLP password. Every person in my organization has entrusted me with their password to their PowerLifePro back office, so that if somebody has an issue, it is so much easier for me to just log in, troubleshoot, advise, correct, than to have to get on a Skype screen share or get on a join.me or get on a call and try to walk them through it. Not that I'm not willing to do that, but some people you work with are going to have high degrees of technical savvy and some people aren't. And what you don't want to do is create the idea in people's minds that in order to do this business, they have to be very technically savvy. The people that are technically savvy, they're going to fix their own issues. The people that aren't, man, is it great if you can just get in and fix it for them. Because all they really want to be doing is, out there promoting the business or at least sending their link out, which brings me to the next thing, which is that I very strongly encourage people to obtain what I call a PLP vanity domain. And this means go to GoDaddy, buy a domain, and buy something like, makemoneytoday.com or awesomewaterbusiness.com. I own probably 20 of them at this point. I'm a little OCD with domains too. And in fact, I actually use them as an incentive on my team for people who will go, say position with a K8 machine or position with Trifecta. One of the things I do is I say, hey, I've got some really good vanity domains to help you promote your business, and I'll include that for you as a perk for positioning for maximum success. But whether you provide it or you encourage them to do it, having somebody register a vanity domain makes it so much easier for them to promote their link. Picture putting on a business card, picture putting in an email, picture putting on a Facebook post, something like, myplpsuccess.com, as opposed to launch.powerlife.pro / secret question mark ID equals my PLP ID ampersand tag equals, you know, Facebook post. That's like the URL if you don't have a vanity domain. And a vanity domain, so when you buy a vanity domain in GoDaddy or whatever your domain registrar is, you just forward it to that really long link that I just gave you, which is available in your PLP back office under links. And then all you ever have to do is give out your vanity domain. And in fact, you can even, if you want to get technical, and if you don't understand what I'm about to say, don't worry about it too much. But if you want, you can actually append that tag, that tracking tag to your vanity domain, and it'll pass through to your forwarding link, and you can still track where the leads come from if you're using your vanity domain in online ads. But again, if that didn't make sense to you, forget I said it, but if it did, it's good to know. But definitely for your team, you want to track what their vanity domains are. Next, I think it's very important to know how your team member paid. I mean, let's be practical. If somebody financed their machine, you want to make sure that 3 months, 4 months, 6 months into the business, that they are still being supported, and that they're not feeling isolated and alone. And you know, in a perfect world, everybody would be responsible, and they would always pay whatever for whatever they've purchased. But you know, the commissions in this business, when you do a magic financing, they're generated as the payments get made, and you want to make sure that you want to make sure everybody feels supported, but especially if somebody's financed their machine. Next, you absolutely need, and this is one of the biggest things I see, you have to make sure that people that join you in the business immediately get plugged into the Facebook group. And it is interesting and almost shocking to me how many people, despite the fact that when they hit the success steps, which I'm looking at right, well, I guess when they first come in, they go to the welcome page, and I'm looking at it right now. It says in big, there's a big bold button right under the welcome video that says join our Facebook community. Many people still don't. And as you all know, that's pretty much like not having a mailbox and yet wanting to stay connected to the world with physical mail. I mean, it is the nexus of communication, that and emails. And so you got to make sure that they get connected and take, honestly, take responsibility for making sure that every person you bring into the business gets not only that you request to add them to the Facebook group via email or by Facebook. If they have a Facebook profile, then first of all, add them as a friend, and then you can just add them to the Facebook group just by adding them by your friend relationship. Otherwise, you have to add them by email address. But again, if they've used an email address that isn't their primary email address or isn't linked to their Facebook profile, it makes it a little harder for them sometimes to accept. And follow up on that. I mean, make a note to yourself to a week later, I'm going to circle back and make sure that this person is active in the group. The next thing is, and this is just me. I personally have two positions. I have, well, for anybody I bring into the business or anybody else that I've brought into the business brings into the business, I have two positions. I have my machine position and I have UConn position. I actually have what I call a quadfecta. So I have 3 second-tier positions, but anyone that comes in under that, which means for every sale, I should receive at least 2, if not 4, 6, or 8 checks. And I keep track, and on every check stub, it gives you, let me hide the names. Here, for anyone that maybe hasn't received a check yet, here's a big stack of check stubs from my desk. You really do get checks in the mail here. It's pretty cool. But when you do, the check stub is going to have your ID right here, the position that's receiving the commission, and then it's going to have buyer and sponsor, so it'll have the ID of the position that you're receiving a commission on, and then it's going to have the ID of the position that sold the machine or the UConn that you're receiving a commission from. So using those 3 numbers, you can make sure that every machine that gets, or every product that gets sold in your organization, you receive both, or all commissions due. I always check and make sure I have a machine position commission and an UConn position commission. Okay, now I've typed this list, and I'm going to, I'm going to post it in the group for your whole team to make sure you are creating a culture of support. Oh wait, hold on guys. It's got a, I have to log in with, so I can post a comment over here. Okay, there we go. Okay, there, I just posted it in the chat, but I will also, thanks. Oh, Clint, thank you for that feedback. Someday I will show you my full, in fact, you know what guys? I'm just gonna show you this. I'm just gonna show you this right here. Because you may be wondering, how do you keep all this straight? And the only reason I didn't show you guys this immediately is because I don't want to reveal, I would just do a screen share with this, but I don't want to reveal everybody's personal information on my team. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to see if I can get this computer and bring it around. Okay, so you see that right there. That. Okay, this spreadsheet that I have on this other monitor, this is everybody's information that I just described. And the most important thing about it is that I use this platform, my computer's getting heavy, sorry. I use this platform called Smartsheet that is hierarchical. So if I go to my very top position, and I click it, it collapses the entire position. But if I come to the next level, I can collapse and just look at my, actually I now have a, I guess you would call it a quinfecta, because I just opened a 5A lane. So these would be my frontline positions to my top machine. Now, if I just want to view the downline of my top position, I can open that. And then let's say I just want to view the frontline positions to that, and I have it all color coded, and I have here everything. And then let's say under any one of those, I want to view, you know, like this is one of my top guys on my team who's totally kicking butt and taking names, and I can view his whole organization under here. He just went 4A, and it's all color coded by level and so on and so forth. And I just feel like I have to know this stuff, because, you know, when you get to, you know, 5A, 6A, you have 50, 60, 80, 100 people on your team. It can make thousands of dollars difference per sale where you put people. And without that information, I just don't know. I can't imagine doing this business without being that OCD. But I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have shown that, because I don't want to set the bar of like, you have to be like that to do this business. You know, for most, if you're just getting started, and certainly when I was just getting started, you know, what somebody told me is make 3 sales. Just stop thinking about everything else and just make 3 sales, because until you open up that 2A lane and you have the benefit of the growth, and you have the benefit of the growth of the whole organization underneath you, it's, you know, you're just sort of like, I don't know, you're like, it's like you're a greyhound in a pen and they haven't lifted the drawbridge or whatever they call it. You can't run. You can't run with this comp plan until you sponsor 3 people. But then, you know, you'll grow into this kind of craziness. And that platform, I'm getting the questions, that platform is called Smartsheet. It is like, and actually they have a free entry level where you can, I think you can build up to 10 spreadsheets for yourself. without having to pay for it. It's like Excel, only it has more robust features where, like, obviously you have the hierarchy where you can expand and collapse segments, but also you can program columns to have a drop down. So like when somebody comes on board, I click on, in the product column, I just click a drop down, and I select UConn, Level R, JR2, Anespa, SD501, SD501U, K8, or Super 501. I just select which product they bought because I've been able to pre-populate the drop downs in the column. So it's like Excel with a lot of really cool add-on features. It's Smart Sheet. I guess that's why they named it that. Okay, cool. So yeah, Excel on steroids. That's a good way to put it. Let's see what else. Now that's all really good, and that kind of covers, you know, what you need to have a handle on to really support them. But now we get into really empowering them and giving them, you know, this sense of, okay, I'm not just supported on the technical side, but I'm armed on the what you would call, I guess, on the marketing side, or the, really it's just about the personal commitment side. You know, it's great to know that you have support, but now you want to know that you have the ability to go out and do this for yourself. And I have, you know, now that I've been in this for over 2.5 months, I've experimented with a lot of different things. And I've made the mistake, I think initially, of thinking that the way to get people really fired up about this was to talk a lot about marketing and how amazing the marketing is, and how effortless and seamless and automated and you know, psychologically well scripted and all that the marketing is. But what I realized after a while is I'm a professional marketer. You know, if it's like getting, you know, if you want to geek out about calculus, go find a math major to do so with. But that's not really what floats most people's boats. What floats most people's boats is they like feeling good, and they like feeling in command of something very quickly and without a lot of specialized training. You know, the specialized training, sorry, I keep adjusting my monitor because I feel like you guys, I'm like cutting off my face. But, and the number one thing that I think everybody here can get super wrapped around and super caught up in very quickly with very little onboarding is the water. Get somebody to where when they get the, you know, everybody gets the machine. First of all, make sure they hooked up their machine. I can't tell you how many people I talked to that until I circled back with them and I said, and they're like, hey, how do I, you know, I'm ready to go. What do I do? I want to build this business. I want to make sales. I want to make money, blah, rah, rah, rah. And I said, great. How's the water treating you? Oh, well, I haven't hooked it up yet. Okay, well, reel it back, rewind, go back to the beginning, hook up your machine. If you're not a passionate advocate and believer of this product because of your actual use of the product, then everything else is going to ring false. So hook up the machine, get your drops, and then I personally, I'm at my office right now, so I have a fridge. You can hear me knocking on it. And I have, at all times in my office, clear plastic cups, and then a variety of clear beverages, beverages where you can actually see the colors change. Smart water, clear vitamin water. Well, it's not clear, it's opaque, but it's the clearest Gatorade. Purified drinking water from Kroger. I have Sprite, I have Aquafina, I have Dasani, I have all the usual suspects. And I even have cherry, grape, these are grape tomatoes, and I actually bought some grapes too, so that I can wash fruits and vegetables in the water. And I have toothpicks, and I have translucent plastic dishes to put the fruits and vegetables in. I have this stuff around me all the time because I have meetings here at the house, or here at the office, and I have all the same stuff at home. I have meetings, I have people over, and it's so easy to sort of naturally segue casually into that little presentation if it feels natural, if it flows into it. And the thing is, if you don't have the stuff, you'll never do it. And so you don't, what I advocate to people is, okay, look, just go buy a bottle of these things. It's not like you're not buying bottles of water anyways. And you know, having a Sprite, a liter bottle of Sprite on hand isn't going to kill you. Go buy these things anyways. Do this demonstration for yourself so that you can, there's a tactile learning process of actually doing the demonstration where you start to realize how flippin' easy it is to do this demonstration. I mean, you know, I have a friend who's in a business where in order to sell their products, and they do really, really well in this business, they have to go actually prepare meals for people. And their presentation takes several hours. This presentation literally takes 5 minutes. You know, and it's the most powerful presentation there is. I haven't done this presentation one time where at least somebody present didn't get started in the business. And I've only done it a handful of times, but I mean, literally I have 100% success rate at doing the presentation and having somebody want to, actually I shouldn't say that, not necessarily get started in the business, but just want to get a machine. Because once they see the water, they don't want to drink that water anymore. I don't want to live my life drinking, it's not smart water, it's dumb water. I don't want to live my life pretending to be smart and drinking dumb water. I want to drink good water. And it sounds easy to do, but until, you know, you almost kind of got to like hold somebody's hand through this. I literally have stayed on the phone with people while they put the drops in, and you hear them like, oh my gosh, even though they've seen the video, they saw Pat Boone do the same thing, but it just doesn't click until you do it yourself. But once you've done it, you realize I could do that 1,000 times. I could do that 10,000 times. And if that meant that I would be financially secure for the rest of my life, I will do that 1,000 times. Never mind all this internet stuff. And by the way, the internet stuff's really awesome too. But the physical method of getting them to do that presentation just for themselves will cement their commitment to the business like nothing else that you could do online. Then, once I've done that, then I will take them through my marketing interview process. And my marketing interview, I basically, and yes, Smartsheet is cloud-based, so it works on any platform. But once I do the marketing interview, or the marketing interview basically consists of 4 things that I really try to hone in on. First of all, and I'm going to put these in the discussion thread as well. First of all, I asked them, hold on, 4 things I hone in on in the marketing interview. And I'm seeing the time here, and I'm realizing that, as always, I'm being very long-winded, and we might not cover everything within the hour that I intended to cover, and that just means I'll have to do another one of these. Hopefully they'll have me back. I have no problem with that. But in fact, maybe if some of you will, because I don't know what the rotation is, but if some of you will shoot a note to PowerLifePro and say, hey, Jeff didn't get through everything he wanted to, and you know, obviously if you feel this way, but we were totally digging what he was saying, is there any chance we could get him back? Then maybe they'll bump me sooner in the rotation, because I know I'm not going to get through it all, and I have more I want to share. And sorry if that sounded like gratuitous self-promotion, but I really do want to get through it all, but I don't want to keep us more than an hour. Okay, these are the 4 things that I cover in my marketing interview. And I know I talked about this last time I was training. There's a very specific reason for referring to it as a marketing interview. It's not a marketing plan. It's not a marketing strategy. It's not a marketing method. It's a marketing interview. Because a strategy, a plan, or a method implies that there's one way to do it, that it's my way to do it, and that you have to do it a certain way, and that it's not something people are less apt to take ownership of something that's dictated to them. So a marketing interview, first of all, people show up to a marketing interview completely open. If you show up to a marketing plan, a lot of times, particularly people that don't have the technical skills, they'll come to that plan having already psyched themselves out. They'll show up to the conversation already with a bunch of reasons why they can't do it, whatever it is. So marketing interview, these are the things I try to drill down to. First of all, you know, and these kind of go together. What are your strengths? And sort of getting to know their personality. And usually I don't come right out and say, hey, you know, what are your strengths? How much do you bitch? No, I just mean, you know, get them talking. Find out, are they a people person? Are they a people person who also, you know, I mean, really the fundamental divide here is introvert versus extrovert. And when you have a home-based business, but you promote it online, it's interesting because you'll find a really interesting blend of introverts and extroverts. And by introverts and extroverts, I don't mean good, you know, people that are good versus people that are bad, people that are cool versus people that are nerds, people that are kind versus people that are rude. What I mean is, and the technical definition of an extrovert is someone who derives energy or who is, you know, recharged, so to speak, via interactions with other people. An introvert is someone who is recharged via time by themselves, and they're actually drained of energy by interactions with other people, whereas extroverts often feel uncomfortable with too much time by themselves. And it's a psychological thing. It's not a judgment or moral or ethical thing. But it is a pretty clear divide between camps of people. Interesting note, I'm actually an introvert. I have to have time by myself to recharge. But I also love people, and I love to share, and I love to communicate, and I love to connect. So it's not as initially clear-cut as you might think. But you know, I think once you really start talking to someone, you can ask them. You can say, hey, are you someone that is going to be, you know, comfortable communicating with people about this? And by the way, if you ask that of people before they've done the water demo for themselves, the answer is almost always no. I don't want to go out and talk to people about their water. This is why you have to have people do the water demo for themselves, because once that it's transfigurative, I think that's a word. When they do the demo, suddenly, in my experience, is that at least 50% of the people that do the water demo, after they do that demo, they will say to you without being prompted, I cannot wait to show this to someone, whether it's their wife or their brother or their, you know, parent-teacher association, whatever it is, and it'll just happen. And so, you know, anyway, first part of the marketing interview is getting to the bottom of who they are and what their natural inclination is going to be as far as communicating about this business. And then building off of that, I want to make sure that they have promotional materials. How are they, you know, physically, there has to be something in their life to start conversations about this water, about this machine, and or about the business of, you know, associated with the machine. My personal observation at this point has been that it is, when you're marketing online, it's easier to lead with the business. When you're dealing with people offline, it's far easier to talk about the health, because not everybody that you deal with in your personal life is looking for a business. And even if they are, very often they're not looking for it from you. But everybody drinks water, and everybody wants to be healthy, and most people that drink water are actually drinking water that is either, you know, contraindicated or at best neutral in terms of their health. And so those are pretty easy conversations to lead into, but having good promotional materials makes it so much easier. And the first most obvious promotional item is the machine itself, having it in your home. Offer every single person that comes to your house a cold glass of water or a glass of water. You know, literally, people, workers at my house, anybody, the pool guy, I'll say, hey, do you want a glass of water? And, you know, if it starts a conversation, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't have it here, but there are bottles of water you can get, or water bottles you can get online, that actually look like alkaline batteries, because obviously you fill them with alkaline water. It's a great conversation piece. I walk around with this bottle of water all the time, and it serves another purpose too, which is the fact that the bottle is black means the water retains its alkalinity for longer, though ideally you're consuming the water fast enough that it shouldn't really matter. that's a great conversation piece. I've had people ask me, why do you have a black and orange water bottle that looks like a Duracell battery and it says Kangasell on it? And I just tell them, I say, because I'm alkalizing my body, because 2 years ago my mother-in-law passed away from pancreatic cancer, and I made a decision that I was willing to do slightly oddball things to keep from getting cancer, and one of them involves carrying this goofy water bottle around. If you want to know more about it, here's my vanity domain that I registered and I redirected to my PLP website, and even get business cards and have a business card handy that you can hand out. Basically, come up with some way that you're going to integrate this into your life. And some people are so good at this, they don't need physical props. Robert Mercado is a great example. I mean, he had a post today on Facebook about how he texted someone and said, what do you know about Kangen water? And it's cool that it's Kangen water. It's not alkaline water, because if you ask people what they know about alkaline water, a lot of people think they know about alkaline water. This is one of the things I keep around for when I do demos. This is alkaline water that has a purported pH of 8.8 that I bought at the local Smith's grocery store. Last time I tested a bottle of store-bought alkaline water, the pH came in right around 6.0. Alkaline water doesn't stay alkaline forever under any circumstance, and it definitely doesn't stay alkaline when it's exposed to light, which is what happens obviously when you put something in a clear plastic bottle. So it's really good to test that as part of your product demonstrations, but it also means that you don't want to necessarily ask people what they know about alkaline water. Ask them what they know about Kangen water, because Kangen water has properties beyond simply being alkalized or ionized. It also has the ionization process that they use, meaning the electrical charges don't just alkalize the water, they also microcluster the molecules. And I have come up with a really effective metaphor for how to explain microclustering to people, and this maybe can be helpful for you. I compare it to white rice. When you, and most water, I say, if you think of the H2O molecules in the water, they are like grains of white rice. And most water is actually like sushi rice. If you go eat sushi, you know that the rice, they put sugar in it and it's held together in clumps. It's very clumpy. That's what most water is that the molecules are clumped together. So an actual, when your cell is trying to absorb water, it's not trying to absorb one molecule of water. What's happening is this big cluster of molecules that are held together, it's like sticky water, is trying to get, let's say the hole in your cell membrane is this big and there's a clump of water molecules this big, and it's trying to force its way through the cell membrane. And that's why even when you drink most water, you don't actually absorb a lot of it. That's why most of us you always hear that your body is 70% water, but actually most of us run anywhere between 50 and 60% water. Even if we're drinking enough water or as much water as prescribed, we're not actually absorbing it as much. Microclustered water basically means that the molecules are not sticky. It's like you just boiled the rice and you didn't put any sugar in it. And so now an individual molecule can fit through the hole in the cell membrane because it's not clumped together with 800,000 other H2O molecules. That's my analogy, is plain white rice versus sticky rice. And people really seem to get that. When I start talking about molecular clumping, people tend to glaze over. Anyways, so sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. Promotional materials. You got to have some sort of conversation starter, or you have to commit to being the conversation starter. And in either case, I recommend you base it on the word Kangen, not on the word alkaline. Next is, and this kind of goes with that, say, okay, great. Now, what's your strategy? One of the things that Aaron Rashkin, who we all know, is very, very good about is he has what he calls an activity tracking system in his business, where he gives a certain number of points to some sort of a post or a content piece, like posting on Facebook, posting a video. He gives a certain amount of points to a personal conversation. he has a certain amount of points he gives to different, you know, parts of promoting his business. And it's kind of like saying, hey, I got to drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. Well, I got to have, you know, I got to get 4 points or 6 points a day in my business. And you can come up with different strategies and sort of establish, hey, you know what, you're going to have one conversation a day, and you're going to give out one business card a day, and you're going to invite, you know, maybe your stay-at-home person, you're going to invite one person or 3 people a week to your home, and you're going to make sure you offer them a glass of water, or you're going to do 2 product demonstrations a week. Whatever it is, you got to establish it. Or you know, maybe it's more of a technical angle. I'm going to email 5 people a week, or I'm going to exchange business cards with people, and then I'm going to email, you know, every business card has an email address on. I'm going to build a database, and I'm going to email 10 people a week. Whatever it is, you've got to have the materials, and you've got to have the strategy, and you've got to have accountability and goals, or else it's just becomes this nebulous thing. And then finally, you know, it has to be discussed. A budget. What's your budget? Are you willing to do some paid advertising of any sort, even just investing in good promotional materials? And one thing I want to tell you guys, because we've hit the hour, and this is where I'm probably going to leave you for tonight, is PowerLifePro is very committed to developing very, very high quality promotional materials for you to build your business with. Obviously, they've built incredible online funnels. There are new features being rolled out all the time. You might have seen already that you're starting to get notifications just as of today when people log back into the system. You used to get a notification when people became a lead. Then you'd get a notification when people became a prospect. But now you get notifications in the interim whenever they log back into the system. Incredible, so that you can really be contacting them when they're at their computer accessing the material. And not only guiding them through the information, but also demonstrating to them that as they bring people into the system, they're going to have those same tools and that same ability to make real-time contact when it matters the most. Just one example of how PowerLifePro is continuing to develop. There's also a new prospect application process that's rolling out in the next probably 24 hours. I hope Adam doesn't get mad that I'm putting a timeline on it. I know that they're in the final stages of it, but certainly in the next couple of days, I'm personally hoping in the next 24 hours, that's going to be live. And this is going to be ongoing. So I want to make sure everybody knows that, you know, remember, you're in a business now that's maybe going on 5 months old. I mean, Enagic's 44 years old, but PowerLifePro is only 5 months old. I dare to say you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, there is so much more to come. So when we're talking about promo materials and your marketing strategy and your budget, these are conversations that are going to evolve over time as there become more and more resources to talk about. But you know, that's the marketing interview for right now, is focusing on defining their strengths and their personality type, identifying promotional materials that they're going to use in their business, their strategy and their goals for how, and their plan for how they're going to use those materials, and then obviously a budget for any sort of paid promotion they can do for their business. Hang on, we've got some comments. Yeah, so you know what, guys, we have a couple questions I'm going to answer real quick before I have to go, and then we will definitely pick back up next time with the other things. I wanted to talk some about the compensation plan, and there's a way that when you onboard people, you really use the compensation plan to your advantage to get them committed and passionate and seeing, you know, people want to see what their future looks like. And the compensation plan in Enagic is really great because it's kind of like a yellow brick road. I mean, it maps out a career path for people, but you can't assume that they see that right out of the gate. And there's a few things you can touch on to really help people move forward. We'll touch on that on the next presentation, and we will get into some of the tools. So we actually talked about it some with the marketing interview, but some other strategies for how to get more people to the funnel. I just posted in the discussion the 4 things I hone in on the marketing interview. Let me browse for a couple questions. Kenny drinks hot water. I am not an expert on drinking hot water. That is a great question. What I would do is I would Google that question, and I think you'll probably find some really good answers, better than I can give. I've never drank hot water. I've made soup with hot water. And then Clint, yes, exactly. That's what I mean by the marketing interview. Once I've onboarded them fully through the PLP system, once I've had them do a water demonstration for themselves, then I have this, like you're calling an opening interview or a marketing interview to help. It's really what you're doing, and this is what it is. You're helping people come up with a strategy that's their own idea. Because people are always, they call it not invented here syndrome. When somebody is the creator of something, they're more excited to do it, and you're basically leading them into discovering how they're going to promote their business, as opposed to just telling them how they're going to promote their business, even though in many cases you reach the same conclusions. Jessica from Colorado, nice to see you. I don't know if you're saying hi because you just got here, or if you're just saying hi because we're wrapping up. But folks, that is over the hour. We're at 66 minutes here, so let's wrap this, and I will absolutely be back for another training. One quick disclaimer, I have a baby due in 13 days, or 12 days, I guess. So if that, depending on when she comes, it may be a few weeks before I'm back, but I'll definitely be back and we'll pick this up. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Appreciate it. Love getting to spend this time with everyone, and we'll catch you next time. In the meantime, drink lots of Kangen water and enjoy feeling great. All right, see ya.